So if you don't have the question done, you haven't even attempted it, and I'm providing you guys with the answers, what you should be doing is writing the answers to the left of whatever the question is, so that you can use the space to actually go see if you can get it on your own. Whether you have the answers or not, I'm hoping at this stage I've made it clear that I'm not just looking for whether or not your answer is right or wrong. I really, really care about how you've come up with what you've come up with, and that you can show me the process behind it all. So, if you haven't already, get your stuff out. Find me this page, page 34. Let's give you the answers to the homework I gave you yesterday. So, you're looking at stuff like this. Number 1 is either 2 and 7 over 24, or it's 55 over 24. Whether you choose to leave it as mixed or improper, it's entirely up to you. I'll zoom in so you can see it better here. Yeah, there we go. Clear it up. Come on, figure yourself out, document camera. There it is. Okay, so 2 and 7 over 4 or 55 over 24. The next one is 3 and a third or 10/3. The next one is 1 and 5 over 24, or it's 29 over 24. I'm just going to go down the page, make my life a little easier. 1 and 11 over 30, or 41 over 30. Let's do 9 and 11 right away. This is going to be negative 2 and 2/5, or it's going to be negative 12 over 5. 11 is going to be 1 and 5/12, or 17 over 12. Going into this column, let's go. This one is 3 over 56. This one's 2.5, or 5 over 2. Number 6 is 1 and 3/4, or it's 7 over 4. 1 and 19 over 20, or 39 over 20. Same thing. This one would be 1 and 5 over 18. That's an 18. Or 23 over 18. It amounts to the same thing. 12 is going to be 1 and a 5th, or 6/5. Is there anything on those first 12? Are there any questions out of those first 12 that anyone would like me to do? You were working at it and you can't figure out how I got what I got. Heck, even if you're looking at this thing and you're like, I didn't do it, but that question looks gross. Can you show me? Like, especially if I ask you to do these things without a calculator, there's a few kind of gnarly ones on there. Some techniques that I showed some people and not necessarily others. Is there anything out of these first 12 that you would like me to do? Any of you? Some point you guys are going to need to take ownership for this one a little bit. Maybe we should push the test back. Yeah, let's push the test after the one weekend. I don't know. We'll think about it. Okay, so there's nothing out of these first 12. All of you were like, yes, I can do all of these first 12 questions. It's Hassan Joe. I know you because you checked them all already. Okay, so no one wants to see any of these. Okay, and here's the bottom 4. The bottom 4 look like this. 13 is, bless you, 7 over 48. 15 is negative 3/14. 14 is 10/17. And 16 is negative 2/9. Is there anything from any of this page that any of you would like me to do? Really? Yes. I would love nothing more. Let's take a look at question number 13. So the question like 13, did you start it, Emerson? You started 13 and you just got a different final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, what was your first step? What did you want to tackle first? How did you do it first?
So I just wanted to
that is the correct first step. Taking a mixed and turning it improper, absolutely. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 7/6. Okay, next thing. That is absolutely the next first thing. So that's going to be 8 over 1. Love that. And turn it into what? Absolutely. That is the next best first step. Now, everything you've done there is correct. And now the only thing you've got to do now is multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. So 7 times 1 is 7. 6 times 8 is 48. So everything you did up to this point is absolutely correct. You got something different at the end? Yeah. What? Okay. So on a test or a quiz, if, and Emerson, you showed this work, like you got, like, you didn't just do it all in it? Okay, so this is a great modeling here. If this is a 2-mark question on a test or a quiz, for example, and Emerson, you got to this point and you just screwed up the multiplication at the end, you're probably getting 1.75 out of 2. Like, you've demonstrated for me all the skills I want you to demonstrate. You've taken your mixed, you've made it improper, you've taken your whole and you've made it a fraction over 1, you turned the multiplication and division and you took the reciprocal. That is 80% of the question. If at the end of it all you screwed up the fact that 7 times 1 is 7 and 6 times 8 is 48, that is such a minor thing that if you've shown me everything else, you're going to get almost all of the marks. You can get every question wrong on this test, and if you show me the work and if the mistake is right there at the end, you can still get an A. Because I don't care exclusively about the final answer. It's so much more about you showing me what tools and techniques you're using, and if you can use those properly, that's almost everything. Enough so that I can still give you a really good grade if all you're doing is oopsing here at the very last step. Was it the 6 times 8? You did it in your head and you didn't get 48? No, yeah, okay. So you said it was 7 over 40? Okay. If you're, but, this is also a good place to talk about this. If all you do, Emerson, is in your head, you're like, yeah, 7 over 40. And that's all I see on the page, I can't give anyone anything for that. But if with all this work, Emerson still says 7 over 40, you're still getting 80% of the marks. Okay? So I just want to emphasize how important it is that you show me what's going on inside your head. So anything anyone else wants me to go over from any of these 16 questions? I'm happy to do it. Yeah, Zara. Number 8, this guy here. Okay? So you tried it and got something different? Yeah. Okay. What was the first thing you did? Yep. Okay, so you turned this thing into 11 over 4? Yeah, okay, so that's great. Yep. Perfect. So like that? Okay, that's absolutely the correct first step. Now you need to, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, we need to do what? Why? You're right, but why? Why did you do that? Did you also multiply the 4 times 5? Yeah. Why did you multiply the 4 times 5? Or I'll ask it this way. What did you multiply this guy by? Why? So you're absolutely right. That is the correct thing to do, but what's the step that, like, let's call it what it is. What's Zara doing? If you choose to multiply this thing top and bottom by 5 and this thing top and bottom by 4, why is she doing this? It's the right thing to do. Why? Louder. Yeah, you're finding a common denominator. And the common denominator between 4 and 5 is 20. And, well, I mean, and we want the 1 in there too. The common denominator of 4, 5, and 1 is going to be 20. This 20 is the smallest number all 3 of these multiply up to. So you're absolutely right, Zara, to do this. Timesing by 5, timesing by 5, top and bottom here by 4, and then top and bottom here by 20. This might be one of the most dangerous steps in here for making a mistake. I'm just going to do it, Zara, because what you said was the right thing to do. Did you also multiply top and bottom here by 20? Perfect. So you're going to get 55 over 20 plus 24 over 20 minus 40 over 20. Is that what you got? Okay, so that's where you made your mistake. Unless I made a mistake. Hassan Jote, did I do my work right? Oh, come on, it's number 8. You're supposed to be with us. 55 over 20, 24 over 20, minus 40 over 20. Okay. So that's where you would have made your mistake. What was your next step? What would you, assuming that you got the same numbers here, what should I do next? And then what's on the bottom? Okay, so Zara, this is a great, thank you for modeling this. It's the same thing Emerson did. If you screwed up a little multiplication in here, but you showed me all the work that you said, okay, if one of these numbers is wrong, heck, if all 3 of these numbers on top are wrong, but at the end of the day, you still showed me then the next step was adding the numerators, adding and subtracting the numerators left to right, the denominator stays 20, you're still getting 80% of the marks. Just because you try to do some multiplication in your head, and that's where you made your mistake, that's not going to be the thing that penalizes you. You've still shown me you can do all of the techniques. So you know where your mistake is, and everything else is good? Perfect. Anybody else want to go over any of these other 16 questions? Today's lesson is short, otherwise you're just going to get a ton of practice on this stuff. Nobody. Even the slightest twitch is making me think here. Like Genesis just like, the hand went up and I was like, a question! No, and then she just fixed her hair. Nobody? Okay. I want to show you guys something, especially those of you who are away, you didn't see it yesterday. I want to show you something else that is a really good way to actually go about doing mathematics. For those of you who didn't see it, for whatever reason, I would like to present to you this monstrosity. Students shall remain nameless. You weren't paying attention. This is a great way to do math. I've got 15 board segments because on the back here. So I've got lots of board space. Getting up, and so I haven't really forced you guys to do a lot of it yet. Getting up, doing a lot of work on the whiteboard. I know Sean, you've been doing this a whole bunch. This person who's been doing it for a little bit now. It's a good way to get out of your space, just isolate it to your desk, and it actually makes it really easy for me to help you because all your weight is nice and big. I can sit back and I know exactly where you're. One of the ones we were talking about yesterday was this number 5 here. Really easy for me, just even though you guys are looking at this one, it's a mess. It is a mess, but it's easy to find for the person who did it and the person who's evaluating it, me. It's a really easy way to check what's going on here. So I want you to feel free, even when I don't make you use the whiteboards, feel free to use the whiteboards. The only step that I would probably suggest this person take that I didn't see them do yesterday, actually take a picture of their work. Because at some point this is all going to get erased, and if there's nothing on their page, except maybe the final answers, then perhaps they don't have all of the resources of all of the work they've done to go back and look at. But by all means, if you're going to write all over the whiteboards, take a picture. When I was in university, there was a crew of us, there was 3 or 4 of us, that just loved doing all of our work, like for our assignments on paper. Because the way, especially by 2nd and 3rd year, some of our assignments would take like 6, 7, 8 pages per question. But when you have a whole whiteboard, you can just start and go. And then we'd stand back, we'd take a picture, and we'd edit all those PDFs together, and we'd submit our document or our homework that way. Using the whiteboard, taking the pictures, and storing those, there's ways to make folders on your phone of call it math class, shove it in there. more of you that can get comfortable working on a space like this, the better off we'll be. So that's just wanted to draw everyone's attention to that. When you weren't here yesterday, didn't get a chance to see it. I'm not the only one that needs to see the whiteboards. Like, currently right now, my right hand is the only one on any of the whiteboards except number 13. Well, and number 2, someone drew a pumpkin. So you've got that option. Okay, if there's no other questions, then let's take a look at today's lesson. It is short. It is bed mass again. We're gonna do bed mass 3 times. First we did bed mass with integers. Actually, we're gonna do bed mass 4 times. First we did bed mass with integers. Now today we're gonna do bed mass with fractions. Next week we're gonna do bed mass again with decimals. And then next chapter we're gonna do bed mass again, except we're gonna bring in the exponents. It's gonna be great. I know we all love exponents. But we've identified even something as simple as bed mass is really quite an important skill. We want to make sure our students have it. And there it is. There's nothing to add to this. Bed mass is brackets, exponents, division, multiplication, addition, and subtraction. One of the biggest mistakes that I saw in your guys' quiz, aside from losing minus signs, was left to right. I don't know why. Lots of you guys like going right to left, and at least, well, there was a good sized chunky view that just messed you up as a result. No one has come asking help for any of their quiz corrections, so perhaps there aren't any questions on the quizzes? I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to do 4 questions as a review, and then we're going to spend the rest of the class practicing this stuff. There are, as it stands right now, 36 practice questions. I am not going to require that you do all of them because we don't have a lot of time. But I'm going to give you a chunk, and then we'll talk about them on Monday. So, here we go. Bed mass. Nothing has changed. It's all still the same thing, except I'm going to change one of these questions to make it look more like one of the mistakes that I kept seeing. So, first question. I've got bracket 6 minus bracket 2 plus 6 bracket times 3. Zoom this thing in here so it's really easy to see. And this isn't the first time you've seen double brackets. You saw double brackets on that quiz with the integers I showed you last week. Let's take a look at how we play this out. So, bed mass. B stands for brackets. There are a set of brackets. So let's look. When we've got double brackets, how they close, if you start on the inside, how they close each other. So these inner 2 would close each other. These outer 2 would close each other. You need one of one direction, one of the other direction. You wouldn't like do this because that doesn't make any sense. So we've got a set of brackets. Let's ignore the times 3 and let's look inside. And now inside those brackets, there's another set of brackets. So what we're going to do is we're going to isolate that innermost set of brackets, and we're going to do whatever's going on inside there. So this inner set of brackets is 8. 2 plus 6 is 8. So the way I want you guys to model your work is to make 1 or 2 changes at a time, changes that make sense to do together, if there are multiples, and then go from there. So this guy, bracket 6 minus 2 plus 6, bracket times 6. That inner one is 8. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to rewrite this as 6 minus, I'm going to leave that bracket there, and I'm going to call that an 8. I have my 2 sets of brackets, and I still have my times 3 there. The reason I left this set of brackets around the 8, and the reason why I want you guys to get into that habit, is because if this wasn't 2 plus 6, let's say this was 2 minus 6, and that would have been negative 4, then having the negative 4 in here, I would want to leave that set of brackets to make sure we didn't lose that negative anywhere. And then you'd see the double negative, and then hopefully treat that properly. We've got one of those questions coming on down here. So I've got brackets, lots going on there. And now my next set, because there's nothing going on inside the brackets with the 8, I can move out a set. I can do the 6 minus 8 is what's going to happen next. 6 minus 8 is? Negative 2. Thank you. So I'm going to go this way because I don't have any space vertically. And we're going to get negative 2. I'm going to leave that outer set of brackets there. I've dealt with everything on the inside. And I'm just making one change at a time. 2 plus 6 became 8. 6 minus 8 became negative 2. And I I bring along for the ride anything that hasn't happened yet. So then the last step is actually, there's only one step left here, is that negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. That's it. So that's the kind of question that could have shown up on a quiz. This is the one that I'm going to change here because a whole bunch of you, oops, if I would have made this change on the quiz. I'm going to turn this, instead of multiplication, I want you all to turn this into addition. Okay, so changing it into addition changes the question here slightly. BEDMAS says, well, BEDMAS starts with B. B is brackets. There is a set of brackets, so now we've got to deal with what's going on inside there. I have negative 2 minus 5. Ignore everything else. What is negative 2 minus negative 5? If I take something negative away, or if I have a double negative like this, what does that actually mean? It means we're turning this thing into addition. So that might be the first thing I write down. And now, so because we've got that double negative, it means we're adding. Now what is negative 2 plus 5? I'm at negative 2, I move up 5, and I'm going to get? Careful. It's 3. Picture the number line in your head. If I'm down here at negative 2, don't drop the minus sign. Negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go, I'm at negative 2 and I'm going up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there I am at 3. So now I'm going to rewrite this. It's going to become negative 2 plus negative 12 divided by 3. Lots of you did that first step correctly on the quiz. This part where I got you was the second step. BEDMAS says what comes next. There's no brackets with math. There's no exponents. The division is what has to happen next. So now I need to look at this piece here. This is where the division is hanging out. What is negative 12 divided by 3? It's not 4. It's negative 4. If I've got a negative divided by a positive, my result is negative. So this piece here is negative 4. And negative 4 and positive 4 aren't the same thing. That's like saying you and your evil doppelganger are the same thing. That's not true. If you've never seen the TV show Community, I'd highly recommend it. The darkest timeline version of yourself. So the negative 12 divided by 3 is negative 4. And now I can rewrite this. This is going to become negative 2 plus negative 4. And now I've only got one step left. What's negative 2 plus negative 4? Negative 6, and we're done. Okay. So far this is all very, very similar. Let's make it more interesting, shall we? We're going to skip the third one because we're running out of time. I want you guys to play with some stuff. We're going to jump straight to the bottom one. The bottom one is the kind of question that shows up here that's new. We're going to start throwing fractions into these kinds of things and asking you guys to deal with them properly there. Nothing is going to be beyond the skills that you already have. You're just going to look at these things, and some of you are going to get overwhelmed with where to start. Just that's what's going to happen. So, but BEDMAS will save you. B stands for brackets. We have a set of brackets. So now I need to deal with what's inside the brackets. What's inside the brackets is addition of negative 6/5 and 2/3. This is the kind of question that you've been playing with over the last little bit here. How do I add these two fractions together? What do I need to find? Yes, Hassan Joe. I need to find a common denominator of 5 and 3. So maybe it's helpful for you to write these down. Some of you can do this in your head, that's great. If you can't, let's crank some out here. 5 and 3, I'll just write them on the side of the page. And I'm just going to write down their multiples. 5 goes 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 3 goes 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Oh, look! As soon as you find a common number in that list, that can become that's a common multiple. That's going to become our common denominator. So I can right away jump ahead and say, okay, well, this is going to become negative 4 divided by bracket, bracket. Both of these are going to be over 15. How did I get there? How does 5 turn into 15? What do we have to multiply by to get that denominator? Yeah, Josh. 3. So I'm going to write in my work here. I'm going to multiply by 3, and whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So then negative 6 times 3 is? Almost. Thank you. Negative 18. And then how do I go from 3 to 15? I times that thing by 5. And whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. 2 times 5 is? 10. And now we add across the top, leave the bottoms alone. So I'm going to go over here. That negative 4 and the division, nothing's changed there. Now I'm going to take a look here. I got negative 18 plus 10. What's negative 18 plus 10? I did just kind of give it away. It's negative 8. The brackets I'm going to leave there. It's going to become negative 8. And the denominator stays the same. What's the next step? How do I divide a whole number by a fraction? There's 2 things that we can do in the same step to clean this up. Hassan Joe, I saw some fingers. Yeah, the whole number needs to become a fraction, so I'm going to put that negative 4 over 1. Absolutely. And my next step, so this is going to become negative 4 over 1. And then what? Yeah, Alex. And when I do that, I also have to do what? I can only change this into multiplication if I also change the fraction somehow. I got to take the reciprocal of it. I got to flip it. So this is going to become, and leave the negative sign in the numerator. Just flip the 8 and the 15. It's going to become negative 15 over 8. I can make a simplification here. What's the simplification I can make here? Yeah, I can cross simplify here with these fractions. Negative 4 and 8 are divisible by 4. Divide by 4, divide by 4. And we're going to get negative 4 divided by 4 is? It's not 1. Negative 4 divided by 4? Negative 4 is sorry? It's negative 1 over 1. And we're still multiplying here. The negative 15 hasn't been touched. Over 8 divided by 4 is? Two. And now I multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. Negative 1 times negative 15, positive 15. 1 times 2 is 2, and we're done. Now, if you don't like improper fractions, you can change it to a mixed number. To change this thing to a mixed number, again, you're not required to unless I tell you to specifically. What is 15 over 2 is a mixed number? How many times is something that's useful to think about it again? How many times does 2 go into 15? Goes in 7 times. 7 times 2 is 14. 15 minus 14 is 1, and the denominator stays the same. That's it. Bed mass doesn't change. kinds of numbers that you can do it with do, and then each of the kinds of numbers that we work with is going to have a certain set of rules that go along with it. Questions about anything I did there? Okay. If there's no questions, then there's a half hour left. Here's what I want you to do. I would like you to take a look at these questions that are on this page and the subsequent page. So there's 20 questions there. I want you to start with, which ones do I want you to start with? We're going to start with odds. And we're going to see how far we get. There's only 25 minutes left. Start with odds. If you finish the odds, then at that point go back and take a look at evens. But start with the odds, and you can go from there. If you've got questions while you're working, feel free to ask. If you'd like to move to the whiteboards, feel free. Anything that's currently on the whiteboards, you are welcome to erase, which means if whoever wanted to take a picture of whatever they did on board 13 needs to do that quickly. But any of the boards are fair game. Pens are up here in the white box on the desk. Yeah, 25 minutes left on the block. Do what you can with this. On your mark, get set, go. You may. Hey, Sean.